So you're talking about your book, The Rise of Islam and Bengal Frontier. In that, you challenge the dominant theories of Islamization, the idea of religion of the sword, the patronage model. So how does this insight that Islam is moving not just as a frontier, but there is different way in which it developed and located itself in South Asia particularly. So what are you challenging and what are your core arguments?
As I was doing this research for Bengal, before I even went into the field, I spent about a year and a half in Bangladesh doing the original research. But before all that, I read a lot of the secondary literature.
Okay.
Every book I could find that talked about the origins of Islam in Bengal. And they all seemed to talk about one of three different theories, each of which I found was not adequate. One of them was that Muslims came in with on horseback, waving a sword, and simply conquered Bengal. It's true, the Turks did conquer Bengal in 1206, 1204. But that does not explain religious change. It only explains political change. So the first thing to do was to get rid of that theory. It doesn't work. Another theory was that Muslims simply migrated all the way from Afghanistan or somewhere in North India. But that doesn't work either, because if you look at the DNA information of physical anthropology, these Bengalis have always been Bengalis. They've always been there. And so you can't argue, it's not possible to argue that simply the population moved in from somewhere else. Then you had this idea that pious Sufis coming in and converting everyone. Well, the problem with that is that Sufis are everywhere.
Yes.
And there's no reason why the Sufis of Eastern Bengal should be more pious or more effective than the Sufis of Western Bengal or the Sufis anywhere. And besides, when I look at Sufi literature, I find no evidence of any interest in conversion, contrary to what many people say in both Pakistan and India. I'm afraid they're both...
What was the interest of Sufis then in these places?
Well, I had many different motives. Many of them were there to escape the court, to find solace in solitude, which is, after all, you know, the whole idea of retreating from society is fundamental to Sufism. They were also there, I'm thinking of like Shafaddin Maneri, who wrote his famous 100 Letters, was there to work with people, but not with Hindus, but with Muslims, in terms of advancing their own kind of sense of piety and Islam. But these people were not interested in converting non-Muslims. That was my point. Although everybody says that. You see that in books all the time. Because it sounds plausible. But the problem is there's no evidence for that. So I had to throw that out. And then you have the theory that low-caste Hindus found Islam attractive because it preached equality, which also sounds very plausible. But there's no evidence for that either. We don't have any evidence of... In fact, the population that eventually did become Muslim in Eastern Bengal had not yet already become Hindu.
What does that mean, not yet had already become Hindu?
It means that Bengal was gradually becoming Hindu before the Turks arrived, before Muslims arrived.
Before that, what was the Bengali identity?
That's a very good question. It was very much structured around local folk deities. I mean, people who study religion might call this animism. But the point is, it was not a textually based religion with scripture. They did not have that. So Buddhism had not yet. Buddhism did have a history in Bengal, to be sure, even in Eastern Bengal. But it seems to have died out for reasons that are still obscure before the Muslims arrived.
The interesting thing you're saying, Dr. Eaton, is that the Hinduization of West Bengal and the Islamization, I mean, the words may be, some other words may be used, but it's happening almost at a similar time and gradually. Or there's a lot.
Gradually, very gradually. Yeah. Well, the Hinduization happened much. Brahmanism had a big head start in Bengal. The whole of Bengal was slower in becoming Hinduized than Upper India, Aryavarta. In other words, Uttar Pradesh, even Bihar. That's true. But I would say that the western half of Bengal had become predominantly Hindu in its social structure, its political structure, by the 13th century, but not the eastern part. So the eastern part was still left, relatively speaking, like a kind of a blank slate.
Tribal, animist, and not much organized, small pool of local deities. Yes, not within the larger fold of Brahmanical ecosystem. So that's what was East Bengal, as opposed to West Bengal, which had established norms of...
It did.
Okay.
And West Bengal was also, at that time, the Ganges River was flowing right down the west, not the east. So that was the ecologically active part, as well as the socially more advanced part in terms of its agricultural and social development.